stage, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here today.
Well, excited to have you. Now, like I said, you are a student here right now, right?
Yes.
You're doing a PhD in aerospace engineering.
Yes.
Because, you know, that's easy, right? And you also have a master's on top of that in aerospace engineering.
Yes.
Right, and you also work for NASA and you also work for SpaceX too.
Yes.
Overachiever. Okay, so, but it wasn't always like this. You were actually from Texas.
Yes.
And you grew up pretty much in an environment that was very different in California. What was your life like in Texas, and what were some of the things that really was, how can I say, gave you a sense of reference of where your place was in society in Texas?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Texas. I actually lived there for 22 years before I moved to the Bay Area when I came here for Stanford. And I did my undergrad at UT Austin. And I am from the outskirts of Houston, so I would say Houston has like a pretty big Chinese community, but because I lived in the outskirts, I didn't really get to be a part of that. And definitely growing up, I felt a lot of probably internalized racism and definitely wanted to be white, wanted to, blonde hair, blue eyes, things like that. And I was also like quite sheltered, I would say. I grew up in a little immigrant family, so I was close to my Chinese cultural roots, but I never really felt supported or had the opportunity to explore that. And then something else that I was also going through in my childhood was I suffered from like very severe eczema. I think a lot of people here are probably very familiar with eczema, but for me, I think that has really been a very pervasive struggle in my life. And you were asking me like what my life was like back then, and I definitely feel like my life has changed a lot ever since coming to Stanford, and in that like 20-year period that I went through my like severe eczema, I think my life has changed a lot because I kind of healed from it as well. But it really influenced how I lived my life when I was in Texas. I think there were a lot of things that I really wanted to do that I limited myself from. So for example, I actually really love like modeling and fashion and things like that, but I just felt like maybe as an Asian American, I wasn't, quote, beautiful enough, or even with just like not being the stereotypical way of beautiful on the outside, I felt like I couldn't pursue those things. So I did other things instead to continuously like be in the performing and creative arts space. So instead of getting to pursue my dreams as like maybe a musical theater kid or a fashionista, I instead grew up playing the violin and was very heavily involved in orchestra. And I am still to this day, but I think my endeavors in the performing and creative arts has really expanded since then, which something that I'm really grateful for.
So how did you find your way from Texas all the way out here to California?
Yeah, so I actually wasn't going to go to graduate school. I actually had already accepted a job offer from Lockheed Martin, which is like a space defense company. And then I ended up hearing back from Stanford for my master's, and they gave me a full ride, and I was like, okay, I think like I can't pass up on this opportunity, I have to come. So I came here, and then I was like, okay, after master's, I'm gonna be done. I'm gonna finally finish school and finish the part of me that felt like I needed to satisfy my parents' dreams, which I think we can all relate to. And then I'm gonna then start doing the thing that I wanna do, which was, at the time, I feel like I couldn't really formulate it very well, and I'm still exploring what that is to this day, but it's definitely in like the creative media, creative arts, performing arts space for sure. And yeah, I did my master's entirely from my room because I was also here during COVID. And that is also what prompted me to take a gap year. So actually right after I finished my master's, I took a gap year before I started my PhD because doing my master's in my dorm room was a very, very tough experience. And also, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but Usually when you start your PhD, most people do a direct application, so you know that you're coming into a PhD program. But for the Aero Astro department here, at the time we only had a master's only program. So anybody who wanted to do a PhD had to come in and do their master's first and then take their qualifying exams, where you basically, it's like, kind of feels like the Hunger Games. You like have to like try to be able to stay in a lab and have an advisor want to have you in their lab and fund you for the next like 3 to 5 years. So that was not a very enjoyable process for me, but just all of those things building up, and then also me just getting a little bit older in my early 20s, I was feeling this sense of like, I really want to make sure that I'm living for myself. So then that kind of led to my gap year, and yeah.
When you were out here though, what was it like being in California and seeing the Asian culture?
Yeah, I loved it. It was not something that I was used to at all. And then when I came here to the Bay Area, I realized like, wow, there are so many Asian people. And it was really, really exciting for me, honestly. Like I felt just very accepted, very at home. It's just looking around, I felt like I belonged. And I am currently really enjoying my time here.
So during that time, when you started to get more in touch now with your Asian heritage, you took a gap year. Tell us about your gap year, because if I'm not mistaken, you went over to China.
Yes. Yeah, so I actually was a Schwarzman scholar, and I did my gap year at Tsinghua for an entire year, and it's like a global affairs policy program, and I'm very interested in hopefully in the future influencing like America's science and technology policy. And so at the time, it was something that I really wanted to do. And I also felt like that was the opportunity where I really wanted to reconnect with my cultural roots. And I highly encourage, if you have the opportunity to go study abroad, please go, because it is going to be a way where you can interact with in a new society that just traveling there in your later years, you won't be able to see or experience. I had been back to China as a kid in the past only a couple times, but definitely in the context of living in my grandparents' house. We were visiting relatives. I was like, could not take a taxi by myself, could not use the subway by myself, very limited. I couldn't even pay for things by myself. And that year that I was in China, not only did I like really find myself, and my Mandarin improved, and I just made so many local friends, but I also just became extremely independent in this new society. I have a bank account there now, and like I have a phone number there, and it's just like really cool, and it just makes me feel like I have this whole new world of opportunity open to me that I can explore, hopefully once I'm post-PhD graduation.
So now when you came back, if I'm not mistaken, you also had like a much more deeper appreciation for being Asian and the Asian
Yes.
culture. Now, how did that connect with you and I meeting up within the Asian Miss Asian Global Pageant, but also your overall sense of exploration and self-discovery now?
Yeah, so when I was in China, I kind of used that gap year as like a year to recharge, because I knew at that point like what I was going to come back to. I had already been at Stanford for 2 years, and I knew it was going to be better than my master's because I was post-qualifying exams, and in the PhD, once you become a PhD candidate, then all you have to really do is do the research and then write your thesis and defend. So that's kind of the stage that I'm in right now. But still, I knew I would come back and probably face some pressures to have to fit in and look like the stereotypical engineer, which something that I was like really not happy about. So when I came back, I was looking for ways to not only be more in touch with my more feminine side and just my more creative side, but also to get to know the Bay Area a little bit better, since, like I said, I wasn't from here, and the first 2 years that I was here, it was COVID. So I didn't even know Stanford at that point, let alone the Bay Area. So yeah, I looked around, and I had known about like what pageantry was, but I always felt like that wasn't something for me, being like a girl who grew up with eczema and just like didn't feel very like traditionally beautiful, but also because in Texas I thought the pageant like world was for like white girls, basically. I did have one experience with Asian pageantry that made me think of pageantry when I first came back to the Bay Area, and that was in high school. I had a girl she was a senior and I was a freshman in my orchestra, and she had done the Miss Chinatown Houston pageant, and that's when I first saw like Asian women on a stage being portrayed as genuinely beautiful, and that I think that like was a really core experience for me. And so when I came back, I just searched up pageant near me and came across Miss Asian Global, and that's how we came in contact. And yeah.
So now you've already gone beyond just Asian pageants. If I'm not mistaken, you're about to compete for Miss California.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so after I did Miss Asian Global, I had my eyes set on Miss Chinatown USA. I think circling back to just how much love I feel for the Asian American and the Chinese American community, that pageant is something that I really resonate with. And in order to prepare for that, I was like, let me do this local pageant. And that pageant was the Bay Area Scholarship Alliance's pageant, which is a part of the Miss California system, which is part of the Miss America system. And I thankfully became a title holder in that competition, and I'm the current Miss Silicon Valley, which is really funny to me. And thank you. Thank you. So Miss Chinatown's on hold now, but I will be going to Miss California in June, and I'm just really excited. At this point, I think my mindset is genuinely, I'm just happy to be here. Like, I don't think I could have ever imagined my life would turn out like this, to get to be a public figure, something that I'm like, not really, but still kind of getting used to. And just, I think there's just so much self-growth that comes with doing a pageant. I think it's usually the pageant phase is just like a very fleeting time in someone's life, but I think the way that I'm trying to approach it is just trying to make the most of it, because I know it's not the thing that I will be doing forever, but right now I think it's really something that has shaped my life so much.
What are some of the things that you hope you can inspire or convey or really plant the seeds in young girls, being them Asian or not, but hopefully that you can share with them some of your journey that they can learn from you as an example?
I really hope that young women and girls can just feel that they can stay true to themselves for like as much as possible, no matter what they're doing, because I don't think I really did that. I definitely tried to fit into whatever like engineering and academic spaces I was a part of up until my career now, and I do think that that has held me back a little bit in my professional career. I truly feel like if I had just embraced all sides of myself, I would have been much happier as, you know, a violinist and as an engineer. But because I didn't do that, I felt just a little bit uncomfortable in all the spaces that I was occupying. And I think it's something that I'm struggling with less now. I think pageantry has definitely helped me to embrace all sides of myself. And yeah, I just really hope that young girls can try to hold on to whatever makes them them in whatever space they occupy. I know it's really hard. I wasn't able to do that until I felt like I had like SpaceX on my resume or like Stanford PhD on my resume. And that's really shallow, but it's true. And I know that that's the very real thing for a lot of people. But I do think that you could go even further if you try to stay true and like be courageous and be yourself.
And speaking of going further, what's in store for you, if you're okay with sharing, post-PhD?
Post-PhD, well, I did just get a verbal offer from Apple, so
right.
For a summer internship, but so I don't know. I think like staying in the Bay Area will be maybe a little bit more of a reality. Maybe, hopefully, we'll see. We'll see when the full-time job search comes around, but I would love to stay in the Bay Area for a little bit. I think I've just made such good friends, like through MAG. Like I love my pageant sisters, and MAG has really helped me feel a little bit more at home in the Bay Area. So I really want to explore more what this place has to offer. And in the future, I think I would like to stay technical, definitely. I want to continue to be like an engineer, hopefully maybe one day being a leader in the aerospace engineering field, which is not something that I could have said before I got into pageantry, which is why I think staying true to yourself is really important. I think now that I'm starting to embrace all sides of myself. I can just see myself in aerospace as well, and feeling very confident and happy about that decision. And so I'm really happy about that, and hopefully maybe influencing policy in the future. I don't know. There are a lot of ways that subject matter experts can have a role in the White House and in diplomacy. So hopefully I will be able to go there in the future.
Well, thank you for joining us here, Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.